Okay, welcome to this particular session. It's a special one. Okay, it's a special one because it's the first one of the year, and it's special as well because I'm not going to be doing my usual talk. So we're going to go a little bit off-piste and try something new. Okay, let me just do a bit of an intro here because we've got a couple people that are fairly new. But first of all, there won't be any notes for this one because obviously we're going off completely unnatural. But on the plus side, this is also being simultaneously recorded for YouTube. Hello YouTube land, I've got a camera here and I'm just waving at it. And for those on YouTube who aren't on Second Life, down here is my laptop where we're doing the Second Life. And should all the tech of wonders of YouTube and the camera pack up, I'm doing my usual audio recording on my mobile phone just in case. So this one's I titled as a random thing of myth, magic and stuff, because I've got no idea where we're going to go with this. I might end up just going back to my usual topics, and but hey, so we've got a few people here and we're just going to go and try it out. So for those of you who are new to me, and obviously the headphones that I've currently got on for those that are watching on the YouTube, is that the microphone is for the laptop for the Second Life stuff, so that the noises don't bug the recording, and I can get a decent recording into Second Life, because as we all know, all you guys in Second Life down there, you all know sound can be a little bit of a pain. So as Michelle just asked, are we going to use a pendulum? Well, we could have a go. Who knows? Why not? Are you particularly interested in using a pendulum? Is it something new you've not tried? I don't happen to have any string around me that I can use. Oh well, we've got questions. Why not? Why don't we have a go down the pendulum route? I used to use pendulums, but okay, let's kick off. Throw us your question first, and we'll see how it goes that way. So while you're typing, this is good stuff. So yeah, I used to use pendulums many years ago. It was generally mostly for yes no kind of answers, because it was fairly obvious when you've got something swinging backwards and forwards and round, it's easier to do yes no instead of okay, interesting question. Will I still live in the same town in 1 to 2 years? I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't ask those kind of questions. There are probably better divination methods to use that kind of thing for. As I said, what I tend to use, I used to use pendulums for. I tend not to use them too much now because I have faster ways of doing things. But I tend to use them for finding things and location, because you can do that whole lovely game of hot and cold with a map, and yes no, put a finger on the map, swing the pendulum and put your finger down. Sort of future stuff like this, then I would suggest finding a different method. Are pendulums the only thing you're familiar with as a divination method? Oh right, you use tarot. Well, tarot's a larger, more nebulous kind of answer probably. I don't use tarot. I've used to use playing cards, but that's could do you better than a pendulum. Or as in what type of pendulum, wood or crystal? Well, actually I tend to use anything. You see, when I first got, I when I first started to explore divination, this was late 80s, possibly, yeah, maybe late 8, you know. You know, I normally have a drink with me, mainly because my throat dries up really quick when I'm talking. So I currently have a glass of red wine here. I've got 1.5 bottles of mead here that I made. That, not that I intend to drink the whole lot in the next half hour, but you know, when your throat's dry, you need to do something. Otherwise, it gets a bit croaky. But anyway, let's go back down the memory line. Let me just take a sip of this first. Oh, that's a bit better. Okay. So yes. So in the late 80s, when I first started looking at divination, I found a book. Fortunately, it's a little bit out of my reach from my bookshelf behind me, without disrupting all of the wires that are lurking around me. But it consisted of a number of methods, and I'd already explored a little bit of pendulums because I've seen it on the TV and so on, and it looked pretty cool. Now at that age, I was probably in my sort of early teens to mid-teens. Didn't have many materials, so I just used what was at hand, and that happened to be bits of string, bits of blue tack, bits of Lego, nuts and bolts, anything that could create a weight on the end of the piece of string, and I would just tie that to it. So, you know, it could just be a biro on the end, as long as it swung at a reasonable rate. And that was the crucial part, is getting the right length. You see, I've got a science background, so angular momentum and all of that was really quite a fascinating thing to play with. So if it was too short and too heavy, it would go backwards and forwards way too quick, and then suddenly just die, as opposed to going around in a circle. So it was just finding the right weight. Now what I would probably use nowadays, mainly because I have a whole stack of them, are hagstones. Mainly because the stone's got a natural hole in it, so I can just poke the string through the stone and tie it up to the right length, and then I just vary the length. Can we use pendulum to predict the future? Oh, sorry about the coughing as well. I'm just recovering from a bad cold. So, can the pendulum predict the future? Possibly. I never got used to using a pendulum for that kind of things. I found it a little bit awkward of trying to sort of get yes and no answers, so I kept it as simple as possible. Oh, Angela, that's an old one. Someone using a wedding ring on a hair to determine the sex of a baby. I've known that around for a long time. That seems to be a very old folk custom to do. But I didn't know people still probably did that, so that's interesting. So, you know, you could try, Michelle, about that would be Scottish. Yes, I would say that would probably be a clue. I didn't think it was outside the UK that was a well-known method. But you know, anyone outside the UK can correct me, because I know nothing. Okay. Prediction of the future. Well, what I could suggest then, because you know it's all part of the experimentation process, is to try future questions, you know, short-term ones, and just see how they play out. You know, you could ask a simple yes/no, and then wait a few days and see if it manifests in the correct way. And then, you know, as you get used to it, just try a bit more and a bit more. But, you know, simplicity is the key thing with divination. Oh right. So I have been corrected then. In the US, in the southern states, it is used there too. Okay. Well, there we go. It's good to it's a good thing to know these things. So divination. Well, again, and the question for a divination also equates very well with the intent used in a spell. Simplicity is key. So, if you want to know whether you're going to live in that town in a couple of years' time, you could phrase it in a number of ways. Well, I think that's probably fairly succinct anyway. Again, I would still try and start off with some simple yes and no, because you do this now in 2 years' time and you're either going to forget you did it, or you're going to get your hopes up and be disappointed possibly. Who knows? So it's not something I've ever used divination for with the pendulum in the future. So how much tarot experience do you have then, if you're preferring, or just are you actually just curious about using the pendulum and want to try it with something, or do you have enough experience with tarot to understand what it is you want to your results? Okay, just for video land, just waiting. I'll do a bit of a jazz hand. Woo, wow. Oh right, okay. You had a tarot reading. Okay. It's there are a variety of other methods. I may as well flick through them, and let's do the publisher bit now. My booklet for the Wolf and Howl Press is, my first one was on divination tools, focusing specifically. I hate that word. Specifically, I keep correcting my son on that. I keep making a mistake myself. Hey, on my divination stuff, my early things. Now, the things I used to go with, I could never touch tarot. My hands would burn. Seeing we're talking divination, we may as well just go through the whole bunch, really. My hands burn whenever I touch tarot cards, so I found normal playing cards to be the way to go. In fact, nope, I've actually done some tidying, and they're not on the shelf. I put them somewhere, probably in a cupboard somewhere, because I was tidying the shelf, because the books are getting bad. So I used normal playing cards, and they worked really well. But it was quite a complex system, and I didn't quite grasp it enough. So over the years, it sort of faded away to other forms. Now, let's think, what else have I used? Okay, we've talked about the pendulum. A variety of different dream oracles, and dream oracles I found no use whatsoever, totally unreliable. And I've used quite a few of them, mainly because they seem to focus mostly on what I think seems to be a fairly late psychological effect of things being in reverse. And some of the older sort of ancient Egyptian ones that I've looked at never paid any attention to that. So I think it's this view on things being the opposite is possibly the results of modern psychoanalysis and psychological research. So not sure where that crept in. Could be even Greek, who knows? It's not my area, so I tend to ignore it. Oh yes, there's some few there. Okay, some of these that you've just popped up, Vanite, and yes, I used I Ching quite a long time ago. before I really grasped the concept of what it was about. But in recent years, when I've started to look at alt vanity, oops, okay, thank you. Oh, it's always good to get corrected. When I've started more in recent years to embrace Reiki and Japanese culture and so on, I started to get more back into I Ching from reading Zen and the Tao and so on. So I've sort of started to understand the whole philosophy about it and find it more enriching. Don't use it though, because I've got other methods. Never been a fan of numerology. It just never seems to make any kind of sense to me, and numbers aren't really my thing anyway. Astrology, now many years ago, let's think, when was this? Would be early 90s. Yeah, probably early 90s. I was working for a book publisher, and I used to get really cheap books because I'd get them trade price, and I had a nice stock of astrology books, and I found it really fascinating because I've also got a background in astronomy, and it's a completely different approach, and some of it I weren't entirely comfortable with, but you know, I took it in the straight readings from those books, and it was interesting. The natal charts I was particularly fond of, and I did those for all of my friends, and they would be rather surprised at some of the things that would come up. Again, for divination, I found it just way too much effort just to ask some questions, and you know, just wasn't me. I'm very impatient. Now, some of the other things, I had to go at the tea reading, tea leaves, and the divination book had tea leaves, and that was interesting, but again, I didn't quite get it. Same with crystal reading, crystal ball. Now, scrying is really my favourite, mainly because from the systematic ones, scrying, particularly fire scrying, is my thing. I have a very short attention span, and a flickering flame I found to be really the most easiest way to keep my attention. It's I think it's quite a primeval kind of feel, a flickering flame. We've tried it with candles. At one of my last workshops I did here in real life, we did a quick, it was in a shop in Canterbury, which is in a very old shop. The floors were really uneven. This is hundreds of years old, this building. I could not have any flame. I'd like to have a big bonfire, but that would be a bad thing. So we got away with just a tea light. And actually, no, it was just a burnt down candle that I had well secured. And just in case you're watching Jazz, it was a well secured candle. And it just didn't do anything for me. And think it's a mouth thing for fire scry? Was it because it's just like fire, and men in their barbecues, when it comes to outdoor cooking, it's always the men who like their fire. I've never really considered it, whether it was that way. I don't know that many people who do really fire scry to the extent that I do. Anybody out there who wants to discuss it even more, I'm welcome to. Alright, okay. Interesting. Perhaps because it is the visual thing, men tend to be more affected by a visual. Well, let's not go down the whole adult entertainment theme, because men do seem to be a more focused on the mind. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yes. Yeah, that's possibly why it appeals. You see, because I had to go with, say, a scrying mirror, and I just couldn't grasp it. And that's the same with the whole crystal ball kind of thing too. First, I think it was because I had the mistake of focusing at the thing and thinking I will see something there. It wasn't until I started to naturally fall into the fire scrying when I started to see the images and I relaxed enough that I was able to do the soft focus and then let the imagery appear. And then now I've applied it backwards into other forms. Now, you know, fire scrying is great. I've got a lovely open fire there, but it's not lit tonight because, well, I need the chimney swept. And also it's got a load of bottles in front of it, so I can't really get to it at the moment. So there are other methods, you know. We all carry, you know, if you want to do mirror scrying, mobile phones. And you know, they're reasonably quite large now, some of them. And you know, if you've got your tablet as well, they're highly reflective unless you've scratched it to what's it. So you know, you switch the phone off, it's a really dark piece of shiny blackness. So we all carry our scrying mirrors nowadays. So yes, it's good to make your own, and I would always say make your own kind of tools, because you put whatever you put into it does give you that connection. So let's think, what else have I done with scry? Oh, scry any kind of way. You know, I've got a sort of interest in chaos magic, and you know, a slightly different approach, highly experimental approach to my craft. So I've found a few other means to scry. One that sort of gets popped up, I've seen in some of the Chaos Magic books, is Phil Hine. Sort of bump into him now and again on Facebook, but I don't know him personally, which is a shame. So hopefully one day at Treadwells I'll get to meet him, or another event. No. So, oh yes, ice cream, Neapolitan ice cream. You know, that is a nice way. You know, you get to the bottom of you know, it's a good reason to eat lots of ice cream for scrying purposes. You know, the things we do for our craft, and you know, you get the oh, you know, you've got to sometimes. And you know, you got obviously all the three colours. You know, you could get away with Raspberry Ripple and a few other good mixture of ice creams. You know, you can experiment quite well with lots of different flavoured ice creams. But you know, you've got a, you know, the kind of tea. Oh great, I think the video recording has just stopped. Never mind. Okay. I think we've got a length of, I think we have the length of the video recording. Water scrying. Now this is the odd thing, is that I do love water. I live on the coast and in southeast England, at Dover, the world famous place of white cliffs and all that kind of stuff. But I've always had water on the coast. Obviously, I'm on the coast. But I've always, you know, water is my thing. You know, back from the astrology side, I am a Piscean. I can't stand being inland. I have to be on the coast, the air and all of that. So it has appealed that I should try, but no, I just cannot get it. Okay, I tried waves, going down to the beach, and but it's just too well, it's not, I wouldn't say chaotic. The flame is slightly better, but it's not as expressive. Whereas the flame sort of creates shapes. The waves backwards and forwards, yeah, they're really soothing, but just nothing for me, which is annoying because I really would say I love the sea. but some things don't quite work. And let's just grab another mouthful of wine. This is lasting. This is good. Yes, I'm a Pisces. So let's think. What others? Oh, washing machines. Good scrying. You got tumbling colours, and that sort of. I've not found any serious use for it, because I'd probably get stared at by the wife if I just sat in front of the washing machine staring at it for an hour. No, fire's really my thing. Okay, and also earlier you mentioned runes. Yep, runes are a superb divination method, and it was something that sort of led me down a whole new set of path. And again, I can't reach them from here without spilling the wine. That's an interesting point. Just saying that I'm so naturally attached with the water, it takes the contrast of flame for me to see. That could, yeah, I would say that's an interesting thought. It had sort of crossed my mind that the I don't like to use elements because they don't fulfill my particular sort of path as such. So it is a different kind of thing, and it's not something I'm too attached to, being the water. So yes, it is. In fact, if we talk elemental stuff, again, I tend not to use elements because it's not a part of my Kemetic, my Egyptian path. But the earth is my least connected. My goddess, Egyptian goddess, obviously, a scorpion goddess by the name of Salket. And for those that are watching on the YouTube recording, just up above me on my right shoulder on the wall is a painting I did of my goddess, which is a statue over the other side of the room that's directly opposite the painting. We'll do another publisher thing. It's also the statue that's directly opposite me is on the cover of my book called The Path Laid Bare. I'll inject while we're here, because you guys who are on Second Life who have not come to any of my previous sessions, if you will want to pay a visit to my website, where I will be doing I will put the audio podcast of this session up, assuming the video that's packed up halfway through does actually work still, and because it seems to look like it only records for half an hour and then it just turns itself off, which is really useful. So my website there, thehouseofkia.co.uk, the podcast will go there, and I've recently put a blog entry on there pointing to my YouTube stuff, but I'll do a proper YouTube-y thing on there at some point. So you can always catch up with that, what's been said, especially as we've just had your friend Trin turn up halfway through. Hello! Always good to see new people. So, you can always relive the first half hour by listening to the podcast or the YouTube in the next couple of days, because I need to process it all. Okay, let's get back to runes. Runes are a good one. Let's think, that was, I would say, 1993, 94 perhaps. I was on, okay, no worries. You'll be listening through another speaker set. That's fine. So you know what we're doing then. So that's great. But it still stands. Yes, so runes I got to grips with fairly early on, and I found them really good. I really liked them. I spent a fair bit of time just getting to understand the Outer Fulthark, and I like them. They are highly effective, but my path is Kemetic Ancient Egyptian with a touch of lots of other stuff, to be honest. I couldn't really embrace a cultural system that is different to the one that I'm currently working with. Not that I can't, but the Egyptian path is highly complex and is a whole talk on its own. In fact, the website and YouTube have got the Kemetic talk that I did at Witchfest, the real life Witchfest, a couple of months ago. So I'm highly committed to my Kemetic path, and my goddess is a highly demanding lady. So I really couldn't commit to understanding fully the Outer Fulthark and the meanings and the whole concepts within those. Certainly not enough to stick with it. And I think it starts my sort of interest and use of those runes faded away, which is a shame, because again, in callback to my water interests, most rune sets that I've seen tend to be on various wood, and I like my hazel tree in the garden, which I make my wands from. But for me, again, the sea is the crucial thing. So what I did was I made my runes from stones, pebbles that I picked up on the beach there, where just over the road from where I was born. My first 2 years of my life were actually within 60 feet of the beach. So the sea has been there at the very start. So a little town just about 8 miles up the road from here called Deal, and I spent a surreal length of time, I have no idea how long it was, just picking identical stones from the beach, tiny little white ones, and I made the set out of that, and they served me well, and I still have them, although I don't use them anymore. So the runes were very important, but they set me on a path, mainly down my chaos magic route. I then explored sigil magic, again a two-dimensional form of symbolic magic, which is what runes to be. You can use them for divination and you can use them for magic, so I use them for both. So sigil magic then took over, and it's still quite a significant part. Then a few years ago, I created my own sort of, I say runes, they are not runes as in the Outer Fulthark or runes as we use in the northern traditions, but they are symbolic forms of magic. There's photos of them on my website and so on, so if you want to go and have a nose. So they became really useful. Again, I used pebbles from the beach. I'm not sure if I don't think they were from Deal Beach. I'm not sure if they were from Dover, actually. They may have been from Hastings, where that's further down the coast. It's where I spent a lot of family holidays as I was growing up. So again, and I talk about them quite extensively in one of the other audio podcasts, because I am conscious of the time. We've got 20 minutes left of the slot, and another 20 minutes before the camera packs up again and goes to sleep. So runes or any kind of symbolic divination is a really useful tool. Hazel tree. Yes, I love my hazel tree. Lots of wands and stuff from that. I've got I was going to cut it back at Samhain, which I sometimes do once it's the catkins have dropped, but the winter here has been a bit weird this year, and so I've not pruned it. But you know, I've got a couple of really 4-5 foot long twisted, because it's a twisted hazel, that possibly could be staffs. So I'm just going to let them go through to the new year into Beltane and let it sort of try and get them to grow a little bit straighter, so that I can actually have some staffs, because I could do with a new couple of new ones. Anyway, but yes, wood is lovely to use. Now there was something else I was going to say. Oh yes, I've recently been. It was in the last couple of weeks. There's a great academic website called academia.edu, and I haunt around there quite often because some of the research papers that come up are very enlightening. And there was one on a paper on the origins of using a book divination, where you randomly pick a line, open a page, pick a line, and that gives you meaning. Now, this guy, I think he was in Scandinavia somewhere, was sort of describing what he found as the origins, and that was, I think he was pro-Christian, because that's where he was going. In fact, I think he was part of a Christian faculty at one of the universities, but of using the Bible in particular as a slightly different development from the other civilizations in the area that use book divination. Now, I was sort of thinking, yeah, but I know the Egyptians didn't quite use book divinations because, well, papyrus doesn't work quite the same way, but they did have other forms of divination, and I was suggested to him he needs to explore. Now, one of the books, this particular book on divination that I had, was did bring that up as an option. Any of you guys use sort of books? Now, it's not something I tend to use, as I prefer to just use a clairvoyant skill to do divination rather than a material thing, because, well, quite often I'm somewhere where I haven't got any other option which to do. But anyway, okay, I'm getting cramp. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Oh, having my legs up to hold the laptop up at the same time. Ouch. Calls for another sip of wine then, to kill that pain. Anyway, let's think, where else shall we go? Oh, Bex! Yay! Okay, so Bex is here. Woo! Let's think, where else shall we go? Well, have we actually done sort of as much of divination as we can possibly do? I don't know. Let's think, what other forms of divination have I done? Let's just have a quick look on my... Oh, by sorties, a very popular one. Random lots. You know, you flip a coin, you throw some dice, you draw lots. Then that's a valid form of divination, and it's quite an old form and used quite extensively, and really quite an easy thing to do. Especially, you know, you could just randomly pick, say, a couple. You know, there's the one. I think there's the ones that we used to do as kids a lot. You know, you get a flower and you pick the petals of saying, she loves me not, and just keep going round. That's always quite entertaining and quite pointless really half the time, but hey, there's but you know, flipping a coin, it looks as if it can be sort of a wasted one, but it is valid. And I was at a, and it's one I keep bringing up every often because I think it's hysterically funny to show the, not say the insincerity of doing a divination, but yeah, it's funny. I mean, you can take your own mind up. I was at a Egyptian Archaeological Society talk on Egyptian divination methods, and one of the research points that came up was that when they were excavating, I think, not sure if it was Dendera, Temple of Dendera, or Abydos, there were lots of shrines that were doing different divination methods, and in one they found 3 strips, wooden pieces with an obvious petition, and it was for a wedding, and it was obviously a male because he said, I will have, well, not quite a wedding because Egyptians didn't really do weddings, although I think this was fairly late on, so it could well have been Greek period, which case it was possibly borderline weddings. The ancient Egyptians would just shack up with each other and move in, and if they didn't get kicked out then there'd be an item, so it was probably only during the Greek period that it got a little bit more formal. So it was, I would be with or marry woman A, then it was I would be with or marry woman B, and again with woman B. So there were 2 lots for woman B. He did give the name, but you know, I can't remember that far back, and I'd have to dig out my notes, and I can't read my own writing anyway, so it's a bit pointless. So, you know, he was sort of hedging his bets for one particular person that he would be with. Now, there's obviously no results of which one was actually drawn, whether he was totally disappointed and got woman A, or whether he was the happy one and got woman B because he tipped the odds. So, you know, again, I would say it's you can do these things. The whole point of doing any divination is to have an influence, and the influence manifests through to the physical, through however, because you know, how else is any kind of magical or deity experience going to manifest? It has to manifest on the physical level for us to notice it. So hedging your bets is okay, and it's all down to then the randomness. And from my sort of chaos magic point of view, that I work with event probability manipulation, a spell and intent and willfulness is managing or affecting event probability. So therefore, for divination to work, those kind of events is either going to be one or the other, or that one or that one. The event probabilities are going to manifest however they're being influenced, and if a deity or some force is influencing the event for a certain side of the coin to appear, because that's what they want to communicate, is how it's going to go, that's how it's going to go. So, you know, it's all fun, and I would say try anything. You know, if you want to flip a coin or flip a bit of Lego or drop something on the floor and see what happens, which way the egg smashes on the floor, or what pattern the milk carton makes on the floor when you drop it, have a go. It's all perfectly valid. And one final divination method that I love to, and we all probably still do it, is cloud scrying. Lying down, especially not this time of year because it's pretty crappy, unless you're obviously down under, in which case you've got your summer at the moment. But, you know, lying out on the grass and just staring up at the clouds and just totally zoning out and just watching the shapes for, yay, what? summer? Oh, you lucky. Yeah, but when we're in summer, you're going to have winter. Nah. And it's turning towards our summer now. It's downhill for you. Oh, you Aussie. Yeah. It's downhill for you now. Anyway, right. So, time is drawing up. And I think we've probably hammered out a fair amount on the divination stuff so far. So, unless there's any last things, we'll do a wrap up. And thank you for you guys for coming along on Second Life, and anyone there who's watching it on YouTube, assuming the YouTube bits works. And if not, we've got the podcast, so anyone listening, yeah, hey, thank you. So my healing circle will be back here on Second Life. Oh, forget this, YouTubers, you're not going to know about this one. All of you on Second Life, healing circle a week on Wednesday, and then we'll be back here for this one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the next 1 in 2 weeks, but we'll be back here in 2 weeks. And hey, I may even record this one if it's an unusual one. So there we go. It's gone off again, and we're back. That is sort of going off annoyingly. Anyway, so thanks for coming along, listening, viewing, or however you're getting this. And it's great talking. Now, if you all need to find me, easy to find. I've given you the website. I'll give you it again, houseofkia.co.uk. Any questions, anytime, always welcome to talk at length about anything. Because we like that. So, you're welcome. Some of you off to beddy byes. What time is it for you down in Aussie land at the moment? For me, it's coming up to 9 PM. So, I'm going to finish my wine. Crikey, 7 in the morning. You're off to work now then. Right, okay, well, sleep well, work well. Oh, you're having breakfast. Yay! So great seeing you all. And, yes, use a necklace as pendulum. So, that's why, as I said, use a hagstone. It's a natural necklace and it's a pendulum at the same time. Experiment and come back and talk to me. You just need to nudge it slightly, just a little. Have I got? Let me just see. I'm not sure if my is there a pendulum here? Oh, hang on. Okay, I've got some. You're not going to see it in Second Life right this minute, but just for you, if you go to the YouTube afterwards, I'll give you a quick demo. Okay, so hopefully this is in shot. So let me just start this off again. Yeah, anything you can dangle with a heavy end, it just needs to be enough that it comes up to, that is, again, you're not going to see this on Second Life because I'm holding up a pendulum. A nut and a thread, I used to use a nut bolt because, I always had my Meccano. So, this is the kind of thing I would speed. It's sort of once every second, maybe. And then when I want it to go round, it would go round. It takes a little bit of working out the ideal length of string for the kind of weight you have. Obviously, as I said, my science is quite my thing, so we will see. Longer, well, it depends on if the weight it's all angular momentum's all about the length and the weight, and it has to be at the right, the pendulum, as in a clock, that is a bit of maths involved. But gut feel can do reasonably well with experimenting. Yeah, it's all about getting the right, I would say, once a second backwards and forwards, maybe 2 seconds. You don't really want to go, about the speed I've currently got on this. Hopefully it's recording, who knows. You will feel it. It's a lot of messing, but experiment and just try. And as I said, slow tick-tock. If you can say that to yourself, you can say tick-tock, 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 and get a sort of a momentum. And if it feels good and it's not slowing down clockwise, it doesn't really matter which sort of, if you want to attach any kind of value to the direction it spins, you can. I've never done that. For me, it's always been spin or backwards and forwards. But it's all about experimenting. So you try and see what happens. And again, if you start with yes and no kind of things, then you'll find what works. And you can try it against hot and cold. You'll win money. Oh well, you'll just have to see, won't you? That's that bad side, is it's all about experimentation. Yeah, maybe, who knows. But experiment. And again, if you've got any questions about this, then do ask me and we can talk about it more. So okay, I'm really going to need to go get finish off my wine now, because my throat's starting to go again, and I need to see whether any of this is recorded. So thank you again, everybody, and I will see you all very soon. I'm gonna sort of stop the recording now, and I'll probably drop off shortly. So safe journey. Well, safe journey. You're all haven't got far apart from you who's got to go to work. So night and good day. Oh, the craziness of Second Life. Anyway, so great seeing you all. Talk again soon. And Mish, you talk to me. You keep me updated on what's going on with your pendulum. Bye bye. Bye bye. Right. Okay. Let's stop the recording.